Yeah, let's talk about how you create a new school out of an old school, because that's essentially what we've done here. We've taken and added freshmen and sophomores, and even though it's still Norman High School, it's not the Norman High School that you knew last year or that you knew in another capacity. How does it all work? How do you make it all fit together, Kelly?
I think you just have to cooperate and just be willing to accept the differences, but because it's completely different. Because not only that having freshmen and sophomores, but just, I know for me, is coming from the standpoint, thinking that I'm going to be a senior, so I'll know all the teachers and all the administration, and it was a hard transition because there's a lot of new faces at Norman High this year, students and faculty, so it's just, keeping an open mind and being able to work with everybody.
How did you prepare for it? Last spring, for example, when you knew this was going to happen and you had the officer selected, then what happened?
I just think I just had to have an open mind of thinking, well, this is how it's going to be. I don't know exactly. I knew it would be different, but I didn't know how it would be. So it was just keeping a very open mind about that things were going to be different.
But you did do some leadership retreats and spend some time with the kids trying to plan out what you'd like to do.
The past spring, we had a retreat, and we had one at the beginning of this year. And that was a good time for everyone to get to know each other, especially, the freshmen and seniors. We've never been in school together since elementary, and so that gave us a chance to get to know each other, and that's helped out a lot for communication.
Okay. Now, how exactly is you call it student congress? Let's start with that. How is that different from, let's say, a student council?
It's extremely different from an advisor's standpoint, and quite frankly, when we were contemplating putting everything together, I was a little shaky about it. I thought I wanted to stay with the student council format, and in one of the very early retreats that all of the adults involved in the leadership at both schools took, I believe that was last February, different presentations were made of the pros and cons of a student council versus a student congress. And after I heard that presentation, I became a loyal follower of student congress, mainly because more students can be involved. And the reason more can be involved is because it is set up just like the United States Congress in Washington, D.C. The fact that we have a Senate and we have equal representation from each class. The decision was that there would be 6 senators from each class, and then also we have a House of Representatives, which is made up of the homeroom representatives. So it's not just a select few who are able to be participating in this. We also have cabinet members, which are the department, not the department chairs, the chairman of the various committees, and then we have an elected president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. And alone officers, we have 28 officers that make up the Student Congress Senate, and then we have about 75 homeroom representatives, and I believe about 24 committee chairs. So it's a much larger organization than I'm used to working with, but I'll do anything to get more kids involved, so it sounds great to me.
Okay, now Kelly, one of the standard questions kids have, and teachers too, is what exactly does Student Congress do?
Well, a lot of people, when they just think Student Congress, they think, oh, they just plan activities, and we do a lot of that. We do a lot of planning, especially for school-wide activities with all 4 grades. We do a lot of that, but then we also do a lot of kind of go-between with students and the faculty, just for getting things done. If students have a question about something, we can go to administration and ask about that, or vice versa. And so just kind of...
When last spring, and even I guess this fall, when we were trying to get ourselves organized, and the teachers were being asked about different policies, since West and Central had many different policies from what you had here at the high school the last several years, were you involved in any of that policy-making decision? I know we were talking earlier about some of the questions that came to you, or that you went back to the administration with.
Yeah, in fact, last year on our spring retreat, we did a lot of that. Dr. Nations came to the retreat and stayed with us, and we discussed the hat policy because at the mid-highs, hats weren't an option. People couldn't wear them, but at the high school last year, it was just kind of a teacher's discretion, and all the students respected that. And so we presented that to Dr. Nations and explained how it worked last year, and she was very willing to work with that. And so that was something that we were able to do because people weren't really sure, coming from having to have freshmen and sophomores and juniors and seniors.
How it was all going to fit. Okay, and I know there are some other issues that you've had discussions about, whether you've quote unquote won or not is something else. But does it, that part of being at least involved in the decision making process, does that make you feel worthwhile? Does that help?
Yeah, because by us discussing with the administration, we can give the students' point of view and just kind of general reaction to how the students feel the things, and I think that helps the faculty and administration when they're trying to decide things, if they know what it is that the kids want.
Okay, now you say what the kids want. Now you're 28 people, right? That meet A1.
Yes.
Every other day you get together and do whatever you need to do in order to have the activities and have things run smoothly and stuff like that. But you're 28 out of a student body of 1,800 approximately at this point. How do you know that you're speaking for the students?
We also have the homeroom reps, and they play a big role of relaying information to A1s and telling them things that are going to be planned, and then coming back to us and saying things that how they feel, what they want.
So you rely very strongly on that representation.
I think another plus for why we have freshman senators and sophomore senators, and I know I've heard the argument of, well, let the freshmen, let the sophomores have some time to earn some of these rights. But it's been very valuable already to have freshmen and sophomores sitting in this class and be able to turn to them and say, would that be intimidating to freshmen and sophomores? What would their perspective be on that? And then it's also good for the freshmen and sophomores to hear where the juniors and seniors are coming from. And so I feel like there's been a lot of input there. And I also understand we have an input committee that will do surveys when the time comes up.
Real quickly before we go to the questioning part of this from other people. You went to Central for 2 years, so you were at a mid-high. Then you were at Norman High School when it was just a junior-senior building. Now you're a senior, and you have all 4 levels in one building. How do you feel about all that? Do you think that this is a good idea, putting all these people together like this?
I think it's going to wind up being a really neat thing, because the freshmen are going to have 4 years to make this their school, and they're going to have 4 years to have pride and to have spirit built up. So by the time, they're excited right now. So by the time they're seniors, this will have been their school. This is their Norman High they've been to for 4 years. And I think they'll be really proud of that, especially. So.
Coming from Central and coming into Norman High, you just sort of feel like you just get your feet wet and you're gone again?
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. Okay. How about you, Marrae? Now you're coming from the mid-high experience to a 4-year school.
Right. I've been looking forward to it. For many, many years, I have said that really the only strong advantage to having the school separated was the fact that sophomores got to take on strong leadership roles in the mid-highs. Otherwise, there was such a division there of loyalty and not knowing which school you really belong to, and could I attend this activity up at the high school even though I'm a freshman or a sophomore, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm looking forward to that as well as the school pride and watching the young students just starting out here with 3 and 4 years left, how they will grow and develop. It'll be fun.
And have those seniors as good positive role models.
That's right. As a mid-high teacher, I would get very frustrated at having to tell them goodbye when they were sophomores, and I would still attend their graduations and the games.
They're still
and
our
stuff.
kids.
Right, but still, it's not the one-on-one that you're used to having.
And actually, I think personally that the students have adjusted a whole lot better than we as teachers.
Oh, definitely, definitely. We're too old and set in our
We're
ways.
still struggling.
That's right.
All right. Before we begin the question part of it, we need to, I think, explain a little bit about the new format. Rather than have 2 student guests come in and sit and have the exchange of conversation that we've had in the past. This time we're going out into sort of a man-on-the-street approach. And we've interviewed students. We've said, if you could talk to the student council president or the student council advisor, what questions would you ask them? And then we videotape them, and that's what we're going to do now, is play those questions and have you respond back to those individuals, okay?
Give it our best shot.
Give it your best shot. Let's see what kind of questions they have for you.
My name is Danny Skolnick, and I was just wondering, can we have 10 minutes extra on our lunch and cut our passing periods by 1 minute?
Playlist or library.
Right, and
Okay.
add to the lunch break. Now, does student council have any control over something like that?
I think if there's a really strong feeling, maybe we could present something, but I think considering that, you know, if you have two classes that are right together, it's a long passing period, but if you have to go from the science building clear out to the classroom by the weight room, that it takes the full time. So I think that administration has done a pretty good job of
And anybody
deciding.
who's tried to go through the middle knows it's impossible.
It takes the whole time if you're going from one end of campus to the other.
And 10 more minutes is only 10 more minutes to get in trouble at lunch, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely true. As far as student congress, if that proposal was taken to the administration, I would think that they might use us as a block where they could come brainstorm with us or ask us to do a survey, something to that extent. But as far as any decision making, that would be administrative.
Now, in fact, we did have a problem with passing and did some of the, like, I think it's business and math, release a little bit earlier so that the kids have a starting chance, let's say. Did that come through you, or is that something that administratively they just decided to do?
We'd love to take credit for it, but I don't think we
But
can.
it's possible that you could present some, if this were truly a problem, this might, I mean, that perceived by a lot of the student body, that you could go to the administration and say, we need to have something happen, and then, like you say, brainstorm and try to come up with a reasonable solution to the problem.
Right.
We'd be more than happy to do
Okay.
that.
All righty. Let's see what else we have here.
My name is Paul Bones, and I was wondering if there is any way that we could get better cafeteria food.
Again, is there anything the student council can do about something like cafeteria food?
Well, the cafeteria food is done by the Marriott, and so that's not us. Has
That's-
nothing. We have Tiger Paws,
Tiger Paws?
but that's not us either. But the food is more on something that the administration decides on who.
Okay, now this poses an interesting problem, though, because the kids perceive student congress in one way that isn't necessarily correct in terms of what your job really is. Now, how do you change their perceptions? How do you get them to understand what your job really is? Because obviously these two young men have somewhat, well, not necessarily the first one so much, but the second one have a misperception of what you can do and do.
I think that just staying and, you know, with announcements and just listening and trying to stay involved in school activities. And when you're involved, then you're going to know who it is that's in charge of the different things.
Okay.
Perhaps our public relations committee could work on a kind of an image building project for us. That we are not the policymakers, but we certainly would love to serve as the liaison to any items that they would like for us to take to the administration.
Now, I know you're on good company here on Channel 29. Has there any thought been given to, Ms. Kramer's going to shoot me in the studio here, but any thought to student council having a part in the production area here?
Wow.
Maybe having a little 10-minute, here's what we're doing, here's what's going on. Here's the kinds of things
Well,
we
thanks
can
for
do.
volunteering,
Yeah,
Sandy. One more thing you'll take on.
No, I said you.
That's certainly something we ought to take back to them. We'd love to get more public image.
Okay, all right.
Thanks for the good idea.
Whatever works.
how she feels about racism during school at lunch.
Or have you felt that there's racial tension here this year?
I haven't seen, personally, I haven't been that aware of it, but I know that it's out there and I know it exists, and I think that that's just something that individually that you have to work on and have an open mind.
What kinds of things could a student congress perhaps do to try and reduce that kind of tension?
To me, the more school-wide activities we can involve all of our students in, for them to feel hopefully create an atmosphere where they could feel comfortable in attending, and the more chances the students get to mix, the more they can see everybody down deep is the same, want to have a good time and enjoy their high school experience. I'm probably kind of sugarcoating it a bit, but I think that would be an area where Student Congress could help in creating an atmosphere where people feel comfortable in attending.
And that's real important.
Because bottom line, racism has no part in any part of our life.
But the climate that we create goes a long way towards helping to reduce the problems, certainly, or address the problems by getting past the differences. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Hello, I'm Ryan Bell. I would like to ask the Student Council President, what do you feel about teenage pregnancy?
Hey, teenage pregnancy, Kelly. Now we're going to solve all the problems of the world right here and now. Okay. when you go to Stillwater, you're going to have it made.
Yeah, it's going to look great on your resume.
It's going to look great. All right. But seriously, it is a problem. There's no question about that, and it does impact a student's ability to be successful in school. We have here at Norman High Baby Steps program, and Marrae, probably you'd be able to address that a little bit better.
I think this is when either my mother or my grandmother comes on. I put it on, and I think Baby Steps is a wonderful program. I salute the organizations here in Norman that support it, because certainly the first priority is to keep teen pregnancies from happening, but when indeed they do, the young lady or the father must continue their education and get that. That's the only way that they have a future as well as that child does. And the fact that the Baby Steps program allows the young parents to have a place to leave their child on campus and be able to attend classes, and then in turn those students go out to Baby Steps and put in some time learning about parenting skills and assisting, taking care of the babies. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for them, and I'm
Let's
very
look at
proud
it from a student congress, student leadership point of view. That's a population of students, and there are other populations of students that have similar kinds of things that draw them away from school. Mm-hmm. How do you reach out to those kids? How do you get, as best you can, get them involved in school and find that spirit and that you want to have?
I think that through things like the Baby Steps program, that's going to offer them a chance to still be involved in school. And when they're involved in school, then they can have the same opportunity to be involved in the activities that we have and the neat things that we have to go on. And, you know, hopefully they'll choose to be a part of that too.
Okay, you're talking about kids that also like go to VOTEC, that are here half a day and then go to VOTEC, and how do you draw them back in and reach out to them? And that may be a rhetorical question, but
just kind of reaching out and, you know, letting public relations, just letting everyone know, have things to where if they miss in the morning, if they're not in class in the morning, if they're at VOTEC, that when they get here in the afternoons that they can still know what's going on and the special things that we have planned.
And you do have a public relations committee on Student Congress that does just that sort of thing. Okay.
Yes. Going back to the teen pregnancies or any other problems that students can have, I think that's one of the reasons Student Congress and other clubs as well try to get students involved and certainly offer after-hours activities. I know Student Congress alone will sponsor probably a total of 6 to 9 school-wide activities throughout the year, such as Fall Fest, Homecoming, many, many dances, other activities such as that. And granted, pregnancies or other problems, substance abuse and stuff like that, can occur at any hour of the day, but still we're trying to provide a good, clean, healthy, fun time for the students. And that's when I go home at midnight or 1 o'clock and I'm dead tired, I keep trying to tell myself that that's the reason you did that.
And that's different
event.
from when you and I were in school, because when you and
Yes.
I were in school, if a girl got pregnant, she became pretty much of a pariah, and she disappeared from view, if you
That's
will.
right.
And that
Went to
doesn't-
visit the aunt or
Yeah, went
something.
to visit. That doesn't happen anymore generally. The kids are still remain a part of the community, still are a part of the school. Try at least to make it all work.
Exactly.
I think it's important for them to stay in school. I mean, not only for their future, being able to, get a good education, but also for that baby's. And so I don't think that that's something that just because you have a baby, that doesn't mean that you need to get out of school.
Don't need to wear a scarf or a letter or
Right.
anything like that.
Okay, let's see if we got one more.
Hi, my name's Ian Anderson, and my question is, if they were to propose to close campus, how would you react?
Ooh, that's a timely one, because that's a real possibility at this point in time anyway. Close campus. Kelly, what do you think would happen if the school board were in fact to seriously move towards closing campus?
I think that as student congress, something that we could do would be maybe try to come up with something to solve the problem without having campus closed. Maybe present another solution to, because the facilities, it'd be rough having all 4 grades at lunch here at Norman High. And so I think that if that were something that came up very seriously, that would be we would be in the position to be able to present something to them suggesting another option.
Marrae, in your experience with working with student council, when these kinds of things have come up in the past, when there have been problems with the mid-highs, do you perceive the administration coming back to like student congress and asking for some input?
Definitely from my experience at West, and I've worked with Dr. Nations for the last 8 years, and she has done a lot of inquiring from the students and usually tap student council to get the answers or to at least start the ball rolling. I'm sure we would be relied on heavily through surveys and brainstorming and input. I'm sure there'd be a number who would like to attend the board meetings and give their input there as well. I think the students would be devastated if the campus is closed, and I hope by starting discussions like this that can make the students realize how they can take the responsibility upon themselves and come up with a solution to it.
It wasn't really an issue last year, was it, Kelly?
Closed campus? No, I think that we pretty much just had the lunch, and also it was a good thing because most people had that extra year of driving experience, so things with all the wrecks wasn't as much of an issue, and there weren't as many walkers, and a lot of the community is having a problem with that. And so I think that as far as problems like that, we didn't have as many last year, but that's just something that we're going to have to deal with and come up with a solution.
In times past at West, and I have a feeling at Central as well, when we would get calls complaining about our students' behavior, the dangers they were taking, the administration would just get either on the intercom or ask homeroom teachers to discuss it. And the students aren't dumb. They usually take it upon themselves then to straighten up. It just, as long as you bring it to their attention, then usually.
And then quite honestly, I'm sure some people are going to be upset with me for saying this, but quite honestly, when you have freshmen who've never had that kind of freedom before, it takes a while for them to
Yes, it
learn how to
does.
handle it. And Main Street is a busy street, just like Porter was a busy street for us at Central. And the businesses here on Main Street are experiencing this 1,700 kids or 1,800 kids being suddenly turned loose at lunch.
Certainly.
It's double the number that they're used to having here. And I don't know about Wes, most of your kids had to travel a ways to get
Yes.
to a restaurant, where we had a series of restaurants over by Central that we had the similar kinds of problems with kids just not handling things maturely, and that takes some time. But what would a student council perhaps do to, or student congress, I keep wanting to call you council, I'm sorry, student congress do to try and get the kids to do some changing? Would we do some PR work, so to speak, in our A1 blocks and things
I
like
think
that?
definitely, because we just need to encourage everyone, especially, well, the people that are causing the problems, that they need to step up and, respect other property, and because it is a luxury for us to be able to go off campus for lunch, because there's lots of school systems that don't have that option.
Or have lost it?
Or have lost it, exactly. And I think that that's something that they need to take seriously, because this is a problem and the community isn't going to want to have to deal with it. So I think that it's going to be the students who have to step up and say, well, we're going to change this. We're going to, act more mature about this.
Okay. I've already started discussing it in my classes, and the immediate reaction is defensive. The students are defensive and say they aren't the ones, but eventually I think we'll get the ball rolling and they'll start coming up with workable solutions.
Yeah, we have one more question that sort of gets at the heart of what the beginning of this year has been all about, if you will.
My name is Jennifer Williams, and I want to know if any events besides football games are planned to have Norman High and Norman North students interact.
Norman North, we've got two new and one new old, if you will, high schools out of all of this, and a lot of your friends are at Norman North this year, helping to get that school started. And is there any formal plan anyway, to try and integrate the student bodies in activities?
I think we've in planning activities, the two schools have worked together to try to plan things to where they won't be the same night, or that they won't cause a problem. And hopefully that way people can still do things with their friends from other schools and from North, and North people can do stuff with us. So.
But you talked earlier about the freshmen developing pride, and over time, that's going to be their school, and it's going to be their school for 4 years. Do you think eventually that need to come together and integrate will disappear?
I think it'll disappear a lot. I think, especially for the upperclassmen this year, who is affecting the most. Especially, I know seniors, because we went from mid-high to Norman High, and we had a taste of what Norman High really was, and how it was as a junior or senior high school. And now we've gone back to having all 4 grades, which I think is a good thing, but it's just getting used to. And so we're still trying to hang on to our friends that are across town, but I think as the years go on, those bonds are going to
disappear.
Maybe not completely, but they won't be as strong, I don't think.
Well, also the way they divided up the middle schools, most of the kids will be going to the same place, so you won't have that split the way you had at, let's say, Longfellow, for example.
That's right. We worked very hard when we sat down, the two schools sat down on the spring calendar committee to try to come up with activities that did not coincide, so that if you had a friend at North and wanted to attend their activity, you could, and vice versa. The homecoming dance, which I know the dance will be held before this airs, but that'll be our one-shot attempt at doing everything together. And already I'm thinking of, if everybody comes to the dance in the gym, right, they'll be hanging from the rafters. So that's nice. The biggest problem is that, it would be a wonderful problem, but that's the biggest problem is where do you find a place in Norman that can handle that many students?
Lloyd Noble.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, well, I want to thank you both very much for being with us this morning and helping us to try out our new format and kind of get used to it, if you will, and learn a little bit about how Norman High is going to work this year. Kelly, I hope you have a really successful year.
Well,
I know you will. I have all kinds of faith in you.
Thank you.
Marrae, I want to thank you very much for being with us, and hopefully we'll have you back at the end of the year and see how things have gone.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.